Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the lecture series of the next hearing. Today, we'll discuss episode 2 of the series on legal journalism. Imagine for a moment that you're standing in front of a courtroom. There is a judge, there are lawyers, and there are witnesses. But instead of the case unfolding in front of you, it's been reported live by the journalists who are shaping the narrative with every word they write. Now, take a step back and ask yourself, what role does the journalist play in the courtroom? Are they impartial observers, or like any other party involved in the case, do they have a responsibility to uphold ethics, truth, and accountability? Today's episode is all about ethics of legal journalism, the responsibility the media has when reporting on legal matters. In a world where headlines sell faster than the truth, the question remains, how can we hold journalists accountable for the narrative they create, and what are the ethical lines they must navigate? The core theme of episode 2 will be the role of journalists in the legal system. At its core, the role of journalists in legal matter is to inform the public. But how does one remain neutral when reporting on cases involving powerful figures or controversial issues? Journalists are supposed to observe, report, and allow the public to make informed decisions. But when they does reporting cross a line into advocacy or bias, legal journalism must serve as a conduit for the truth, ensuring that all parties involved in a case, whether they are the accused, the victim, or the witnesses, are portrayed fairly and accurately. But too often the line between news and opinion blurs. As journalists, their responsibility is not just to tell a story, but to tell it with integrity. Yet in an era of competition for views, clicks, and ratings, this responsibility is often compromised. What is the power of media to shape public perception? Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. The media has immense power to shape public perception, and when it comes to legal reporting, this power is magnified. Think about it. Most of us form our opinions about a case based on what we read or watch in the media. But here's the twist. The media doesn't just report. It often shapes the narrative, sometimes before the trial even begins. Take the case of Rajesh and Nupur Talwar, who were convicted in 2008 double murder of their daughter Arushi Talwar. And before any verdict was given, the media had already painted them as the perpetrators, distorting public opinion long before the actual facts were known. The media's portrayal was so strong that it affected the trial, and it's something we need to consider. What happens when the media's influence overpowers the impartiality of a courtroom? What is a fine line between reporting and advocacy? One of the most critical issues in legal journalism today is fine line between reporting and advocacy. It's no longer just about providing facts, it's about shaping an opinion. This shift is partially due to changing landscape of media itself. As news becomes increasingly competitive and driven by ratings, many outlets have started to prioritize sensationalism over accuracy. Legal journalism is supposed to be objective. The key word here is objective. Journalists must strive to report facts as they are without coloring them with personal bias. But when journalists take sides or use inflammatory language to push a particular narrative, they risk undermining the very essence of justice. And this can be dangerous. A case in point is the Unnao rape case, where media outlets initially misrepresented the facts and exaggerated the story. The media's portrayal had an enormous impact on the victim's life, the accused's life, and the investigation itself. Journalists became advocates for justice, but in doing so, they lost sight of the truth. Now, what is the ethical responsibility of journalists? Ethics in legal journalism are non-negotiable. Journalists must maintain objectivity, fairness, and accuracy at all times. When covering a case, they have a responsibility to give equal attention to both sides, report all relevant facts, and refrain from speculating or sensationalizing. However, the challenge arises when the media becomes an instrument of power. Media outlets are driven by competition, and the temptation to sensationalize for ratings is strong. But this compromises the integrity of legal journalism. Legal journalism must never serve an agenda, whether political, commercial, or social. In an ideal world, Now let's have some real-world examples of media ethics going wrong. Here are a few examples of when the ethical boundaries of legal journalism were tested and crossed. First, we have the infamous Kejriwal defamation case, where the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal accused the BJP of being involved in a large-scale corruption scandal. The case was covered by nearly every media outlet, but the story quickly became a battleground for political warfare, with media outlets positioning themselves in support of one side or another. What started as a legal case soon became a platform for media outlets to amplify their own political agendas. Another example is the coverage of Vijay Mallya extradition case. Mallya's story was covered in such a way that the facts often took a backseat to sensationalism and speculation. His legal case turned into an international spectacle, and the media's focus on scandal and drama took precedence over the complexities of the legal proceedings. At the end of the day, this kind of coverage impacts not just the individual involved, but the public's understanding of the law. Now let's talk about how media ethics can affect the legal outcome. The role of media doesn't stop at simply informing the public, it extends to influencing the very outcome of legal cases. When media outlets present biased, incomplete, or inaccurate portrayal of legal matters, they have the potential to sway public opinion, and in some instances, this can interfere with legal proceedings. A recent example of this is a rape case in Uttar Pradesh, where the media's portrayal of the victim as a mere pawn in a political scheme led to massive public outrage. The media coverage was so biased that it affected the judicial process, as the court had to deal with not just the facts of the case but also the overwhelming public sentiment created by the media. The danger here is clear. When the media acts as a judge, jury and executioner, it directly undermines the fair and admiration of justice. Let's talk about media's impact on public trust in the legal system. The more the media sensationalizes legal issues, the more it erodes public trust in legal system. When the media creates a narrative of guilt or innocence based on bias and speculation, it diminishes the public's faith in the courts and legal professionals. This is a direct attack on democracy. When a public begins to trust the media more than the courts, we have a serious problem. In the case of Sushant Singh Rajput, public opinion was divided largely due to media reports that turned into investigative dramas. The media did not provide facts, but instead chose to amplify rumors, which led to confusion and the eventual breakdown of trust in the investigation itself. Public opinion was shaped by what the media presented rather than what the investigation revealed. What are the ethics, responsibilities, and the role of journalists? Let's wrap up today's episode with a thought-provoking question. Can we trust the media to report on legal matters with the impartiality that the law requires? The rise of sensationalism, biased reporting, and political agendas has raised serious questions about the ethical responsibilities of journalists. As consumer of news, we need to ask ourselves what we are watching and reading. Are we getting the full, unvarnished truth? Or are we being given a story that is filtered through an agenda? The key to restoring trust in legal journalism is accountability. Media outlets must take responsibility for the narratives they create and ensure that the truth is prioritized over the pursuit of clicks and ratings. We all have a part to play in holding the media accountable by questioning what we see, reading between the lines, and demanding more from those who shape the theories we rely on. If you found this discussion interesting, please like, comment, and share this video. Let's keep the conversation going. What do you think in the future of legal journalism? Is the media's influence a force for good, or does it need a serious overhaul? Share your thoughts below, and let's build a community that pushes for truth and fairness in journalism. This is Amod Bidhuri, and we will meet again in the next hearing.